Okay,
I'm
good.
recording it right now. So I want to introduce Robert Bell. It's Minister Robert Bell. And I'll let him give all of his credentials and etc. But we wanted to invite him because I definitely wanted to invite him because even online, he's been so upfront about information about COVID. He's been one of the most straightforward medical professionals that I've seen online talk about this, good, bad, and indifferent. And I know he has a spiritual belief as well. And that's very important because I feel like a lot of people are missing that. And that may be why a lot of people are giving up hope, right? So, I'll introduce you, Robert, and then you can give your credentials and anything you want to say and go into whatever you want to go into. Of course, the main questions that I've received is, what exactly is COVID-19? I've received a question, what does airborne mean? And another question I received is, what's the difference between the people who get it and live and the people who don't? Is there anything specific you can say to that? So those are the three questions that I received online. So okay. I'll turn it over to Robert Bell.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Definitely appreciate the opportunity and the platform to talk about what's been going on. I am one of those that is on the front line for COVID. Again, my name is Minister Robert Bell. I'm a licensed practical nurse, state of North Carolina. I've been practicing nursing ever since January 17th, 1999. So it's been about 20-something years that I've been in the medical field. I also have an Associate of Science in Business Administration, Human Resources. So that keeps me on the administration side as of now, rather. I've worked 14 years in corrections, which is probably one of the most disease proliferative areas that you can ever work in, with inmates that are sentenced and imprisoned. I've spent about 8 years working in jails right here in Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, North Carolina. I've worked 8 years there, and it's one of the most disease proliferative. And when I say disease proliferative, every disease known to man grows. It's like a what you call an incubator tube for disease processes, because of how certain people keep themselves with hygiene per se. So I do have a lot of experience in infection control and risk management. Right now, I work for a nursing home, Pelican at Randolph. It's right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the unit manager, so I run the skilled nursing facility portion of it, which is about 38 to 42 residents that I'm in direct control of. I have about 7 RNs under me that work on my department, and probably about 9 or 10 LPNs, and about 16 CNAs as well. PT, OT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, the whole gambit. We do it here. Didn't want to spend too much longer on that, but I did want to let you know that this is something that I'm doing. This is not something I read in a book. This is something that I practice. And thank God, as of this date, I am COVID-19 free. A lot of people here have been tested because we've had people that have had the COVID-19. We've had some deaths. We've had people that have survived. I'll get into all of that good stuff when we start talking, but I just really appreciate the opportunity. And again, I wanted to say thank you, Angie Willis, for the Lucy V. Williams Foundation. Anything with Lucy V. Williams' name on it, I'm all a part of it, because she was such an inspiration in my life. Praise God. To get right on it, do you have anything opening you wanted to say before I got right into the presentation?
No, you have the floor.
All right, so I'll get into the presentation. Speaking about COVID-19 is a nice thing to talk about because it's, of course, the trending topic of the entire world right now. But I wanted to talk about the most important part that has played a part in keeping me COVID-19 free. And that's what we call the chain of infection. The chain of infection is very, very important. This is something you want to take notes in. It's a 6-step chain of infection that you really want to write this down. With the chain of infection, it involves anything that's a virus, anything that's bacterial in nature, anything that's a pathogen such as a parasite. All of those things that do not belong in the human body can be considered an infection. And with the chain of infection, there's a 6-link chain. If you are to break any one of those links in that 6-step chain, it's impossible for you to come infected. It's impossible. I'm gonna go over that chain real quick. I'm gonna pull up some of my notes. Speaking about COVID-19, before I get into that 6-step and chain of infection, I wanted to give you some numbers of where we are with COVID-19. And this is as of probably an hour and a half ago. This is what we use as our, it's the scientific data that we use. In the United States, as of today, there are 431,437 confirmed cases of COVID-19. And that's just the United States. I do have Spain, Italy, Germany, France, China, and Iran. And I can go down that list, but we'll stick with the United States right now. We have 23,000. Of the 431,000, 23,000 have recovered. So 23,000, but there's 431,000 that were confirmed cases. Of that 23,000, you have those that have recovered, and then you want to add another 14,687 that have actually died. 14,687 people have died from COVID-19 in the United States of America. And as our president, I don't even want to talk about him, but how he put it was that we are number one. And yes, we are number one in confirmed cases, in recovered, no, not even recovered cases, because Spain had 48,000 recovered. But as far as death, we are number one in deaths from COVID-19. So this is something that may not just leave us, in the next 2 or 3 months. This may be a change of lifestyle for, the entire human race. Doesn't matter who you are. But there is hope. There is a way to combat it. There's a way that I've fought it. Ever since February, we had our first confirmed case here at the nursing home. We've gotten measures every single day from corporate office, based on federal regulations, state guidelines, as far as how we combat it here. One of the things that we have done was we locked down the facility. This is now a closed facility. Nobody can visit any resident family members in our facility. Pretty much all hospitals are doing the same thing, unless you have a person who is near death or going through a transition from life into death. You can have a certain number of visitation, but here at the nursing home, we've locked out everybody. There are residents that were getting their clothes washed by their family members. We stopped that. We have to wash all their clothes because we have to verify what the temperature is that the clothes are being washed in. So there are a lot of countermeasures that we have to keep the virus at bay. Of course, personal protective equipment, we call it PPE, is now the new norm, where everybody's wanting to wear masks, which is a wonderful thing. It's going to stop a huge percentage of the pathogen or the virus from actually entering in your human body. So it does some work. You also have your goggles, your shades. I have mine here. I wear mine all the time when I'm not in my office. So there are ways you can prevent this from going on. But let's get directly into the chain of infection. And I'm gonna go right into that. The first part of the chain of infection is going to be the actual germ itself. So that's the first link, the germ itself, the agent. That's the bacteria, it's the virus. It can be a parasite, it can be worms, it can be anything that does not belong in the human body. Now, please remember, your skin is your first protection that you have against anything. And I made it perfect. Are areas on your skin that's open air, and those are lined with not skin, but it's lined with a different type of tissue, and we call them CMS, ciliated mucous membranes, but that's a long word to just say your open mouth, because you have saliva. You also produce mucus, which leads down into your throat and your trachea, that gives you mucus, and that mucus actually is a good thing, especially when it's clear and not colored. and not thick and frothy. But mucus actually gets rid of the things that are in your body that do not belong. When you breathe in air, and you breathe in air, you don't breathe in oxygen, you breathe in air. Only about 16, 17% of what you breathe is actually oxygen. The rest of it is smog, depending on where you live. I was born and raised in New York, so I breathed in a lot of smog in my life. You also get carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. I can go on and on with the chemicals that you actually breathe. And your body actually expels that. That's what the process of respiration does for you. So when you breathe, you're actually getting rid of toxins while you do that. So wherever germs proliferate, wherever they live, wherever they grow, sometimes you'll get some rainwater. It'll sit on a flat surface. You'll see a puddle. That rainwater won't evaporate. It'll sit there for a few days. That rainwater now has been contaminated. You wouldn't drink that water. You would look at that water. It has bacteria in it, viruses, and parasites. It has all that stuff. You don't want that. So that's the first link. Thing about that link is if you can destroy the germ, you can't be infected. That's where bleach comes in at. That's where cleanliness comes in at. That's where hand washing comes in. It's recommended 20-second hand washing times. We in medical, we do 60-second for the most part, and it's lathering your hand. People figure that, if I use the most expensive soap, I'm going to clean my hand. That's not the case. The case with hand washing is not the exact soap that you use, but the technique that you use in washing your hand. The friction that you produce when you're hand washing plays the biggest role in the success of you hand washing. Whether you're washing your hands up to your wrist or your arms and your elbows, or just taking a basic shower. It's not the soap, it's the friction. The heat is what destroys the virus. That's why they said this virus is susceptible to heat. With the heat, the virus will die, it will not work, it will not infect you. So that's the first link. That's the germs, that's the bacteria, that's the parasites. You can destroy it with the friction, with heat. Use hot water when you're washing your clothes, please. Hot water when you're washing. I know we want the cool water. We don't want the colors to run. But if you're wearing colorful clothing, you definitely want to use the hottest water possible. I forgot the temp, and I should have gotten the temp that we use here because it's a temp that is regulated by the state that we have to wash all our clothes in. We have to wash every dish in order for us to use it again. So the first link is the actual germ and what they do, what the actual agent is. Now remember, bacteria, you can take any kind of antibiotics. That's what antibiotics treat. You catch osteomyelitis infection is caused by Streptococcus aureus, Streptococcus bacillus. You can get any one of those bacteria. And what I did in microbiology, I always go back to microbiology. We would take swabs of like the desk. We would take a swab of a toilet bowl. We would take a swab of your hand, even after you wash it. We would put it on a Petri dish, let it sit for 72 hours in the incubator, and see what grows. Everything that you touch, even your hand after you wash, has some kind of bacteria on it. The thing is, we don't put our hands in our mouth. That's why we teach children, don't put your hands in your mouth after you've been playing outside, and that's where they get the hand, foot, mouth disease from. We have that as grown folk as well. We have H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori infections. There are all kinds of bacteria that we can talk about, but those can be treated with antibiotics until you get something that's resistant to the antibiotics. And that's when you kind of get into trouble, and we have to play with different types of antibiotics. You ever heard of MRSA? You've probably heard of MRSA. MRSA is methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, so we'll go with methicillin. Methicillin won't work, so it's methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus grows on human beings at a rate you wouldn't even believe. People that do not shower and bathe every day, in the inmate population when I worked in prisons and jails, that's where we saw that a lot at, where Staphylococcus aureus would take over their bodies basically and make them what they call septic. Getting in your skin and causing a boil or a pimple, it's not a big deal. We can treat that. But once that infection gets into your bloodstream, it becomes septicemia. Septicemia leads into septic shock. Shock leads into death. So you never want the infection to get into your bloodstream. But again, that's bacteria. It can be treated with antibiotics. Viruses are a whole nother ball game. There is no antibiotic to treat viruses. And the one that we all know of course, is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, which leads into AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. They've made man-made medications, which are called antiretrovirals, to decrease the number of the virus count in your bloodstream. Some people it works for, some people it doesn't work for. Some people that it works for is because their immune system is stronger. What you die from with HIV, AIDS, you die from an opportunistic infection. These are things you've already known and have already heard about. But this virus here that we're dealing with, COVID-19, is something nobody has ever seen before. Nobody has played with it. Nobody has done autopsies to grow the virus. At this point, of course, they have. But up to a few months ago, nobody knew anything about it. So there's no treatment for it. That's why people are more susceptible. That's why it's being spread. That's why our loving president took it for granted, because nobody knew anything about it. He just assumed it, and he said it would magically disappear. It has not magically disappeared. So it's here to stay until we actually prevent the spread of it. So we got the first link in the chain. The second link is where the germ lives. That's called the reservoir. Germs can live on people. Germs can live on your animals, pets, dogs, cats, flies, Zika virus. Remember, Zika virus in Miami came from mosquitoes, which made the babies that were born, the mothers that were infected with Zika virus, they had smaller heads at birth. That one came from mosquitoes. It can come from wild animals. It can come from food, soil, water. All of those are places that germs live. If you destroy the place that the germ lives, you can never become infected. So that's one of the links you always want to destroy. So any kind of standing water around your house, you want that gone. Anything that's, on the north side of my house, I get that little moss haze. I'll pressure wash that at least twice a year. I don't even want the moss to grow, because the moss grows and then viruses and bacteria that eat the moss grow on there. And then my grandbaby who's running outside, she touches that, puts it in her mouth, and then she gets sick because I'm negligent to clean up my house. So cleanliness is definitely one of the ways to prevent the spread of infection. So the first link is the germ and what the germ is. The second one is where they live, which is the reservoir. Again, people can be cleaned. Your animals, your dogs, your cats can be cleaned. Wild animals, we want to limit those, especially if you're living in a city, but that can be cleaned. Your food, you want to make sure you cook it to the proper temperature to kill everything that's inside. Soil, you don't want to play in soil. You just want to, I don't know how people lived. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s where I had friends that ate soil. I don't know how they survive. But those are things that grow germs. And of course, water is something that can grow germs if you don't have it at the proper temperature. So that's two. The third one is how the germ gets out of where they live. That's the portal of exit. So if I was a person that had COVID-19, so I'm the person, I have the germ, they're living in me now, and the germ wants to get out. They want to get out of me. I'm the host, and they want to go into you, who are my friend, my loved one, my wife, my kids. They want to get to you. So that's the port of exit. How would the COVID-19 leave me? It would leave me through my mouth. That's coughing, my nose and sneezing, cuts in the skin. You got to watch out for cuts in the skin. Maybe not with COVID-19, but that's another area of infection where you can be infected, and especially with something as serious as HIV. HIV is a bloodborne virus pathogen, so it's blood-to-blood contact. COVID-19 is not blood-to-blood, it's airborne droplets. People say airborne, they would think of something as serious as Ebola. Ebola is an airborne. That means it lives in the air, period. There is no sneezing or coughing that can prevent the spread of Ebola. That's the difference from Ebola to COVID-19. COVID-19 does not live in the air. It's pushed in you by the forces of somebody sneezing, somebody coughing. And if you're within that 6 feet ratio, that distance that we're doing social distancing for, and you're in that boundary, if my wife is standing right next to me and I have an infection with that, and I'm just so quickly, I miss my wife and I'm ready to kiss her and tell a baby, I'm glad to be home after working a 16-hour shift. No, I'll be a fool because I'll be giving my wife COVID-19. My first thing is to take my stuff off, put it in a bag, put it in some hot water. That's my uniform goes when I walk in my door. My next thing is my shower to get everything that's in me or on me off of me. I do not want to infect my family. I don't even bring my shoes in my house. Even now, sometimes I'll take my wedding ring off if I'm doing patient care because stuff can get underneath your wedding ring. I mean, some nurses know this and some nurses don't care. I mean, everybody's different in their belief, but germs can live in a person. It can live on a person. And when it tries to come out, it'll come out by your mouth, cuts in the skin, or doing something as diapering your child, like hand, foot, mouth disease, or toileting, stool. Feces is definitely one of the ways that a lot of germs proliferate as well. So you have your germ, you have where they live, and you have where they get out of. So the germs are leaving me from coughing. COVID-19 leaves from a cough. So if I have blood-to-blood contact with you, you would not catch COVID-19. But if I cough in your general vicinity and it's within that 6 feet boundary line, I use it 6 to 10 feet because there are some people that have stronger lungs than others. Some people might get a 6 feet, then you might have somebody 6'5". I don't want LeBron James coughing anywhere near me because he might go 10, 15 feet out. I don't know how hard he can do it. But that's, that's as serious as I take it. I don't want that person that close to me, and I don't want to be that close to somebody else. So if I'm going, I'm glad the churches are participating in the social distancing until we can get it under control, because it's nice for me to want to go to church as bad as I want to go to church, but I don't want to infect the mothers. My immune system is wonderful. I take the vitamins. I can jog a mile. I can do all these things. But the mothers in our church that are over 60 and who are sedentary lifestyles and sit down all day long, their immune system is not like mine. And it's not fair for me to give it to them. So, of course, you already know with COVID-19, it's affecting Black people that we thought it was not, because Africa was not affected as much as African Americans are. But African Americans are affected more. And there's a reason for that. In Africa, Africans are very, very boisterous in their lifestyle. They don't, take the car 2-3 miles. They'll walk 2-3 miles. They'll get their groceries and you see them putting on their heads, and they'll walk around. So they use a lot of energy. They're very much more healthier than African Americans who are used to car driving, used to public transportation. When the last time you walked, 3-4 miles to church? That was back in the 1800s when they were going to church like that, and they would walk 5 or 6 miles every single day to school. We don't do that. We take school buses. So our life is considerably different than Africans. Now, when you come to African Americans, of course, we're eating wrong. We're doing things that we shouldn't be doing with our bodies. So a lot of us are more susceptible, and we're paying the price of that. We're paying the price for years of neglect on our own bodies. I'm not preaching to you. I promise you I'm not, because at one time I was 400 pounds. Yes, I was 400 pounds. And by the time I got to the age of 40, I said I couldn't do it no more. I changed my lifestyle. I had surgery because I needed help. I made that decision because as a Black male, I know at the age of 40, there's no possible way I can be 400 pounds and make it to 50. My heart cannot take the toll. So I had to change my lifestyle drastically. I lost 150 pounds. I'm no longer diabetic. So I made that change. COVID-19 is one of those things that's going to make you change your lifestyle. You're going to have to think about social gatherings, even a year from now. I have a social worker that works with me. His grandfather, whom he loves, he's a preacher, died, not from COVID-19, but just from regular causes. And they could not have the funeral. And it wasn't because they couldn't have it, it's because they couldn't. And, Black people, we want to come together, we want to eat, we want to socialize, and they didn't want to socialize because they didn't want anybody to become infected with people flying in from California, flying in from New York. So that funeral was kind of, I was with them, I prayed with them, and, just to make sure that they were okay. But it changed the funeral structure. They couldn't have a repast. You've never seen an African-American family, not have a repast. We gonna eat. We gonna sit there and socialize. We gonna talk about grandma. But they didn't do that. They've changed the whole dynamic of funeral services. I had some people pass away here where I called the mortuary to come pick up the body. The first question they asked was, did they have a fever before they died? Were they coughing before they died? And the lady came and I said, well, what if they did? Well, that body would have sat right here. They would have had to call the federal government. There's a whole nother protocol for anybody with not even diagnosed, just the symptoms that funeral homes have to follow now. So we have that. So again, we got germs live, we got how germs get out. Now we have what germs go around, and that's the mode of transmission. How is it, what's the engine that drives the germ out of me into you? For COVID-19, of course, it's coughing, it's sneezing. You have contact isolation with hands, touching toys, touching dirt. You have droplets. This is where COVID-19 falls into. It comes into droplets. I do have the picture, but I wish I'd have gotten a little early so I can give you the diagram to see if a person coughs, how it just spreads out into the atmosphere. All of those things play a huge role in how you transmit the disease. COVID-19 is specifically from droplet contamination. It's not from blood to blood contact. It's not from feces. It's not from urine. It is definitely droplet precautions. If you remove the droplets from ever reaching you, if you stay that 6 to 10 feet distance away from anybody, if somebody's coughing or sneezing and you cover your mouth, they cover their mouth, that's nice, but you cover your own mouth, you turn your face around. For one, I actually hold my breath for a few seconds till the thing dissipates, and I'll walk away just to make sure I've done everything possible not to get droplets into my mucous membranes. Remember, your mucous membranes are your mouth, mucous membranes are your nose. Your mucous membranes are also your eyes. So yes, wearing a mask is nice. Your goggles are nice, but people forget to cover their noses. Some people forget to even wear the goggles. They just wear masks. So all of those ways are things that you can prevent. So if you can kill the germ in step one, and step two, if you can kill where the germ lives, that you can't be infected. 3, if you can stop how the germ gets out of the host, you can stop it. If you can prevent the germ from moving from that person into you, via preventing the cough or the sneeze, you can stop it. The next one is the port of entry. And this is where your personal protective equipment matters. Putting on your mask is nice. I have my mask on my face, but then I have these right here on the side. So, okay, I've blocked this part from my mouth, and I have my nose, and I have it taped on very nicely. But what about these two parts, because it's not fitting me properly? The N95 mask, if you've known anybody to have an N95 mask, you have to actually go for a fitting. If you haven't gone for a fitting for an N95 mask, 9 times out of 10, you have a leak in it. And if you have a leak, then that's a port of entry. So the port of entry is what you can control. You can control all of these pieces, but the port of entry is what you want to control. You want to control your mouth, and your mouth is where you inhale the droplets. You want to control your nose, where if you have nose breathers and you have mouth breathers. Then you also have your eyes. Somebody coughs, and you cover your mouth and your nose, but your eyes are open, and it gets on that mucous membrane. It goes down your tear ducts. It takes longer to actually proliferate and get into your lungs. But yes, you would be COVID-19 positive. So you got germs agent, you got the place where they live, the place where they leave where they live. You have their engine that drives them from leaving that place. You have how germs get into you. That's the port of entry. And the last thing that you can control is the actual person yourself. You can control yourself. You have to have a susceptible host. The person has to be, like I told you, if you had the Staphylococcus aureus, I can fight Staphylococcus aureus, but my mother may not, because my immune system is different. My age is different. How I keep my body is different. The elderly are susceptible to most everything that you can imagine, because their immune system is significantly weaker than a middle-aged adult or even a child. Babies, of course, have very weak immune systems. That's why you don't let everybody hold your babies. Let everybody kissing on your babies. And that's one of my little pet peeves. I have 8 children. And I love all my 8 children, and my own family couldn't hold my children until they were at least 1 or 2 years old, because I was just that afraid, being a nurse, that something could happen. And I don't want anything to happen to my children, and I know you don't either. So babies are susceptible, children are susceptible, and they're susceptible only because of lack of education. Children have great immune systems once they reach 5, 6 years old. They start getting bigger booster shots of the vaccines, so they can tolerate it. The thing is, they don't know any better. So they don't know not to play in the sand, not to play in the dirt. They don't understand wash your hands before you eat. We have to remind them. So that's where they become susceptible. Of course, the elderly, anybody with a weakened immune system. You've heard of autoimmune diseases such as lupus, multiple sclerosis, all these different things, even sickle cell anemia. All of these things give you a weakened immune system where just being normal is okay, but then when you confront their body with a disease such as COVID-19, they succumb to it fairly quickly. And I've seen that here in the nursing home I manage, and of course New York, you've seen it. It's as much money as New York has. It's not about the money. It's not the rich. It's not the poor. What it is that it's a congested area. It's very closed area. Just mind yourself being in a train with about 100-something people, just 100 cart. One person has it. One person that has it sneezes. Pretty much half the cart at least has it. So people with weakened immune systems, one of the things I want to bring up as well, because remember, the past 20, 30 years, we've had debates back and forth about immunization, vaccines. There are people, of course, if you take your child to school, they have to have certain immunizations by certain ages to even go into school. But there are people, of course, they say, I don't want you to immunize my child because it has mercury. I don't want you to immunize my child because you're giving them the virus or you're doing X, Y, Z. That's another class that I can get into. But unimmunized people are susceptible because your body has never fought off anything. So when you wonder why grandma and granddad could sit there and play in the dirt, and some of the kids that I knew ate dirt, and they would play and they would be healthy and they would have fine lives, it's because their bodies actually use that to develop antibodies. So when we're thinking, okay, you're doing something foolish, you got sick, what do we do with the chicken pox? We give you a dead chicken pox virus. And what it does is it can't replicate because it's dead. So it's not possible to give you chicken pox and you catch chicken pox from a dead virus. When we give you chicken pox, what it does is your body runs to that chicken pox virus and it attacks it. And what it does is your body makes copies of it, but it makes copies that don't hurt you. So when you do catch a real live chicken pox virus, your body already has a way to defeat it. It's already built up antibodies, just like the kids that grew up with me that were eating dirt. I never ate dirt. They did. Just want to get that clear. But with that, unimmunized people have no antibodies to anything. So if a person with measles comes around a child with that would never had immunity to it, they're going to catch it, and they're going to catch full-blown measles. Full-blown measles, you have never seen somebody suffer like somebody with full-blown measles. Somebody suffer with full-blown chickenpox. Chickenpox is a deadly disease. We catch it, we're in pain, we have fever, we get over it, put the calamine lotion, and we're fine. Real full-blown unimmunized children who catch chickenpox have a very high prognosis of death. So being immunized is very important. Now, I know there's going to be a big controversy once the vaccine comes out. Should we take the vaccine? Does it have mercury? Does it have X, Y, Z? That's something you have to weigh out for yourself. That's something I have to weigh out for myself, my grandchildren, my children. But the one thing I do not want them to do is catch COVID-19. And I'm going to say this as well, catch COVID-21, catch COVID-31. Remember this, every year the flu virus changes. It replicates, it mutates. That's what it does. So once you find a way to kill H1N1, remember H1N1, They found a way to kill it. Within a year, everything was done. Obama was the bomb. He had everybody in place here in America and overseas to contact H1N1. Within a year, we had a vaccine to destroy H1N1. Now it's H2N3. So what it did was replicate and it mutated. So now, but we already have the prototype of how to kill H1N1. So the next one is easier. So COVID-20, COVID-21 will be easier to kill because we'll have basic immunity of antibodies against that. So the 6 steps is germs, the actual agent. You kill the agent or the germ, you have no problem. That's one of the links in the chain. Second link is where they live. If you clean up your area, if you're bleaching your tabletops, your spoons, your forks, nobody want to eat forks and spoons that smell like bleach, but you know it's clean. If you kill where they live at, then you have no problem. If you destroy the place where the germs exit, that's the 3rd step in the chain of infection, you won't be infected. If you can stop the mode of transmission, somebody coughing in your face, somebody sneezing, you can stop the chain of infection. If you can stop where it enters into you, that's with your personal protective equipment, you can stop the chain of infection. And the last one, if you can boost your own immunity, you got a good multivitamin, vitamin C, vitamin zinc, it boosts your immune system. Vitamin C, if you take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, your body only absorbs maybe 200 to 300 milligrams. So if you take 2,000 milligrams, which is double the daily amount of vitamin C, you've basically kind of overdosed yourself, but it's not really going to show up unless you do it consistently. But 2,000 milligrams is a very high dose of vitamin C. You're only going to absorb maybe 500 to 600 milligrams of that vitamin C. But if you take zinc with your vitamin C, zinc boosts how much your body absorbs of the vitamin C. So if you take 1,000 milligrams and then you take 10 milligrams of zinc, you'll be fine because you'll get the whole thing of vitamin C. So vitamin C, you got zinc, water. Hydration is important. You got to stay hydrated. A minimum of a half a gallon of water a day in a 24-hour period. A minimum of a half a gallon of water a day. I just got back on my tea kick. Everywhere I go, besides coffee, I'm definitely going to get some tea. Tea is very good to clean you out. That's a Chinese little secret. A lady taught me how to burn fat cells. Before you eat, drink a hot cup of water with some ginger in it. No sugar, no honey, no nothing. But those are little secret remedies.
You're talking Valencia's language now, ginger.
Yeah. Oh, you better believe it. I'm doing everything to stay healthy. But if you can boost your immune system, if you can protect yourself, wear your mask the correct way, a properly fitting mask. My face is fat. Your face might be skinny. We cannot wear the same type of mask. I have to be properly fitted for my mask. For my glasses that I put on my head, I have my goggles. They do not just block my eyes, but my goggles come all the way around the side to protect people from coughing, and they go into the sides of my eyes. So there are definite ways to stay healthy. And again, like I told you, since the beginning of February, I've been dealing with COVID-19 cases here in our place. And thank God, as of today, it's April. I am COVID-19 free. My family is healthy. My children are healthy. I practice this chain of infection and it works. It really works. I'm going to open up for some questions. I think you had some, Sis.
And you actually answered, in the course of your talk, you've answered really all 3 of the questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can you answer the question? Can you tell me about zinc again?
Zinc is one of the minerals that you have. You can buy that anywhere, Walmart, Family Dollar for $1. You know, you can buy.
Okay, we take like a pill a day. Is that too much or is it just enough?
10 milligrams is enough. 10 milligrams of zinc is enough to boost the vitamin C that you take. So if you take 500 of vitamin C or 1,000, you'll get the full dose of the vitamin C. And that's what zinc does. Zinc is not really for that. What zinc does is it boosts the vitamin C so you can get the energy that you need to fight in your body. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I've been for a good 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And what about walking outside?
Walking outside is a wonderful thing. You have to get your heart pumping. You have to do that. Do not let them keep you inside and force you to just stay inside and sit still. because you're going to be active again and your heart's going to be sitting like, what? We haven't been doing this for the past month, and you're going to try to work a 40-hour work week, and it's going to be problems. Make sure you're getting at least 60 minutes of some kind of stimulus, even if it's in your house, that's fine. 60 minutes every single day of increased cardio output. Measure your pulse. The resting pulse probably would be 60 to 90, which is normal. Increase that. If your normal pulse is 70 beats per minute while you're resting, you want to raise that to at least 100. 110 for an hour consistently. That's why you'll see people race walking, or they're walking in a park and they'll check their pulse. They're trying to get warmed up. Then once they get warmed up, your body really doesn't feel the burn. It just feels good because you're doing it and you're running and you're getting your endorphins, which make you feel happier, which takes rid of stress. So walking does a great thing. But when you're walking right now, like me, I'm a pollen issue. I have issues with pollen, and pollen's out there. So you also want to think about everything that's out in your environment. So I walk after dark. I wait till after dark to do my hour, and I'll run up to the YMCA, and they have a track out there. They're closed, but their track on the outside is open. So you do want to get an hour every single day of cardio, increased cardio output, which is what you want to call it. If you haven't done that before, of course, you want to start slow, start in moderation. You might want to do 20 minutes of walking, 20 minutes again, then 20 minutes later on, until you build up your resistance and your heart can tolerate it. If your heart rate's going to 140 and you're not used to that, you're going to get sick. So you definitely want to talk to your doctor if you can, talk to a trainer. Definitely want to take it in moderation, but it's recommended for every single human being, 60 minutes every single day of cardio.
Okay, thank you.
Valencia, you had something?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this because he's saying a lot of stuff that I've actually been doing. I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday and telling them that this coronavirus is really going to make people change the way they, whether they exercise, they take care of themselves, because they'll tell you that I don't eat meat. But since I heard about this coronavirus, what I was telling people was I was taking 2,000 milligrams of buffered vitamin C and the zinc. And then what I do with ginger, a lot of times I'll make a tea. I'll put ginger in it and garlic, and they'll tell you I'm a garlic lover.
Yes, me too. I'm a garlic.
I sleep with it in my mouth. I sleep with garlic in my mouth. I sleep because I feel like that, because the heat from that garlic and stuff like that, what that's actually going to do is that's going to keep my blood clean down and my lungs open up and stuff like that. So that's why I actually do it.
With the garlic, you ever heard of ginger root? You ever seen the Jamaicans? They just chew the bark of ginger. That actually kills everything in your mouth. Kill even the good stuff. A ginger bark, just chewing on the ginger bark. I mean that knocks it. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. Anybody else?
I know we have to go, because we got to jump on the prayer line, and everybody feel free to join if you'd like. But I would like to ask you if it's possible for you to do this again, because
of course. Of my throat, that gets rid of a lot of stuff back there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
gargle with vinegar. Okay.
Yeah.
What about warm salt water?
Salt water really wouldn't do anything as far as killing bacteria, because you're not changing the acidity. It's the acid in the vinegar that's killing everything. So it'll change what they call the pH balance, but it won't change the acidity. So the acid is with, like, even citrus, like orange. There's people that would mince up orange peels or lemon peels and gargle with that stuff in a hot tea, and that kind of does the trick as well, depending on how strong you make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
go ahead.
and I've been tell me if this is good or not. I was told that this mix, it's orange peels, lemons, ginger, garlic, sea salt, and I
Turmeric.
think that's it. Boiling that.
Yeah, if you boil it down real good, yeah, that's not a problem. And remember, you want to boil it to a good temperature to get out any impurities that's in it. You know, they put a lot of wax on fruit now to keep it lasting longer. So you want to make sure all that wax is gone.
Okay.
So depends on how you do it. I mean, but that's a good regimen to actually have. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have to jump to the prayer line, but again, this was recorded. We're going to put it out, and I'm going to ask you again if you will come again, because this was amazing. And then we'll have it. I'm not sure what the mix-up was with the password, but I know at least 25 people that said they were going to be on, but they may have had an issue.
Yeah.
So I do want to do it again, and you can go over this information again, and if you have anything new, that'd be great. But this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all. I'm going to get back to work now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Good night, everybody.
Take
Feel
care.
free to join us on the prayer line. We're going right on the prayer line if you like. All right.
All right. Cool beans.